So here we are, 2022 has rolled around. We already got some nearly 500 acres of soybeans in the ground. We got another couple hundred acres to go. We already have our hemp in the ground as well. We had a challenging year in terms of weather, rain, everything that could be thrown at us was thrown at us by the good old Lord. We had cold, extreme cold, as well persisting cold temperatures, as well as a lot of rain, and not too much in terms of precipitation, but it rained a day, quarter of an inch, then it was dry for 2 days. You could barely get back into the field. It rained again. That's the scenario that we had so far this year. So here we have one of our sprayers, a 90-foot sprayer that is right behind me, ready to get going for some more spraying jobs that we need to do, as well as here we have our planter, which is ready to go and plant another couple hundred of acres that we have right now in the field that need to get planted. And we're right now in one of our shops, just taking a little bit in here in terms of what we got going on. And well, here we are, and we already got our hemp in the field. So let's take a look at that, and then we go from there and show you what we've been up to so far in 2022. The wind is blowing. We got some good wind gusts of up to 20 miles per hour, so we really can't spray or do anything right now. So we're pretty much sitting here waiting. Our equipment is ready to go. We got pretty much everything ready, but yeah, we just have to wait. It is blowing substantially. You can see it at my hair. But it is what it is. Obviously, we can't spray during certain conditions, which we are not. But luckily, we already got 500 acres plus on the ground. So let's take a look at our hemp field. So we are pretty happy with the results so far in terms of what we achieved with the hemp in 2022. We've learned a lot. We have done quite our due diligence in terms of what we need to do and how we need to grow hemp to be and receive the highest yield and output for the season. So we're just going to show you from an elevated position up here what the field looks like after having been planted approximately some plus or minus 2 weeks ago. Let's flip it so you can see it. So this right down below is actually the hemp field. As you can see, it's nice light green, all the dark soil to the left as well as to the right over here are soybeans. And you can tell in the far that even some of the trees really haven't gotten their foliage in yet because it was so cold. So we're seasonably cold, yet and wet as well. And our season is pretty much 3 to 4 weeks, almost a month behind where we should be in terms of planting for everybody else. So let's take a more in-depth look at our hemp field. Let's go down there and check it out. So this year is actually also our first year for harvesting alfalfa. We've got approximately 180 acres of alfalfa, another 70 plus acres of hay that we're doing. We acquired a bunch of equipment, some Moco cutters, rakes, etc. that we're using there too. So we're going to be one of the larger alfalfa producers here in the state of Ohio as well, other than what we do with commodity crops like corn, soybeans, and hemp in our case, which for industrial hemp grown for fibers, we're still the largest cultivator in the state of Ohio. So here we are. We are at the field. We can take a close look. This is where we dumped some of our excess seed, as you can tell. It's actually sprouting. It's actually coming up out of the ground. But here is what we have planted. Sadly, since this is more or less organic, we've got some grass vegetation coming in, as well as some other weeds, as you can tell right here. But we sure hope, as it has been the case during the last 2 growing cycles, this is going to be our 3rd year of growing hemp, that the hemp actually gets a boost in terms of growth spurt and surpasses all the other weeds below and shadows them out, canopies over, and that we don't have to worry about any yield loss due to weed pressure in our hemp field. So we should be fairly fine. I mean, like I said, this is an organic field, So let's see how everything turns out, but we're already better off than we were last year from everything that we've learned during the past 2 growing cycles. So let's take a look at one of the hemp plants that are in the dirt right now here, growing and that have recently sprouted. Let's take a close look at it here. Let's take a look. Here it is, nice typical plant. Nice little beauty coming in, looking nice. No discoloration, no color loss. Beautiful plant. This year is a prime example what we're lacking in agriculture in the state of Ohio or in all the other states, really to say. We're lacking an alternative to commodity crops which have been grown in the United States for decades, if not centuries, like corn, soybeans, etc., wheat. We need an alternative, something that is low in fertilizer usage, as well as, like in our case, organic. There's nothing currently labeled to be sprayed on or to be treated for hemp. So there's nothing that we can use. I mean, right now we have glyphosate or glufosinate prices which are 1,000% higher than what we've had a year or 2 ago. So all the inputs have gone up for farmers. Fertilizer has gone up by almost 50%, depending upon what fertilizer you get, or higher. Like I said, chemicals, pesticides have increased 1,000%. Fuel's up almost 100%. I mean, we the American farmer, agricultural producers as a whole, are having issues with all of our inputs. Well, yes, a bushel of corn has significantly increased. Soybeans have significantly increased. They haven't doubled. That's the problem. You could almost say corn has doubled in the last 4 years. You could say that. You could use that argument. But soybeans have not really. Well, if you take the same time span, yes, you could argue that too. But in between, right before COVID and now, it certainly hasn't doubled. But all our inputs have doubled since right after COVID. So the problem is this, that the bottom line is shrinking due to the higher inputs that we're having. And hemp is a perfect alternative to keep your bottom line in the green for everybody, because it's low labor intensive in terms of you can't do anything. You can't apply pesticides. You can't even apply anything because it's not labeled. There's no labeled chemicals yet in the United States, which Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc. is working on, because we need them nonetheless. But currently there's nothing. And any producer, any grower, any farmer who is planting or is planting in the future, cultivating hemp, can sell carbon credits on our GOA marketplace that Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc. is also working on. So you will have 2 revenue streams for that matter. You will have your yield, your fibers, as well as your carbon credits that you would be selling and receiving money from heavy industry. So we need an alternative. We need Congress. We need our state legislatures to work with us, with the producers, Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc., to turn this around and make this a commodity crop like everything else, that we can turn it around. I mean, just for instance, in the state of Ohio, there's, Intel coming in. Well, Intel, as well as other battery manufacturers that are going to situate around Intel, 60 miles away from Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc., they will need materials that are like graphene, not just lithium, but also graphene. You can make graphene equivalent or even potentially better materials that have better properties than graphene does from hemp fibers. So, I mean, there's just countless, but just in light of this just recently announced Intel expansion in the state of Ohio, which will, to my knowledge, is the largest economic expansion of any industry or any one company in Ohio, like Intel, will need graphene. So, long story short, we as agricultural producers are ideally situated to make hemp, industrial hemp grown for fibers, into an equivalent feedstock for Intel chip manufacturers, battery manufacturers, to name just a few industries. So here we are. We need to make this commodity crop, and this is what Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc. is working on, and will enable all the cultivators around us to take advantage of this nice, low-cost crop that helps the environment by emitting oxygen, cleaning the air, the breathable air that we're breathing from carbon dioxide, and will allow us and the producers that will work with us to actually sell their carbon credits. And that's why Grow Ohio Agriculture Inc. is going to invest and will set up a decortication processing facility for industrial hemp grown for fibers to make this a viable solution for other industries, but also for industries like Intel that will need material like graphene to run and manufacture their chips, batteries, etc.